How do I deal with feelings of anger and shame around money in intimate relationships? Part of me feels deeply disrespected when my partners are expecting us to pay for our share, and another part of me feels shame for this feeling. And so part two of the question is, how do I communicate and negotiate with a partner around that topic? Okay, so some language for communication around that topic. Okay, so here's some language. The number one thing whenever you have something like this coming up is you do some inner work. Okay, you first get really conscious yourself about what your feelings are, what the thing is that happened. I'm going to name one thing that I'm not going to get into is the social conditioning around who pays for what, and any, everybody's listening is going to have all their own values and judgments around how they feel about sharing things 50-50 or not. But what I do want to drill down a little bit with you is it something a little bit like this? I'm going to put some language and then just for you to react to and tell me if I'm getting closer or not closer. We're talking about like a romantic relationship, right? And we're talking about dating, and it sounds like there's a part of you, I'm going to the part where you're wanting scripts. It sounds like there's a part of you that wants to express an aspect of your experience. And maybe it's something like this. Listen, dear blah, 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 dear other person. As we're getting more and more into this relationship, I know that how we're working with money and how we deal with sort of living expenses and where things are shared in partnership and where things are gifts that we give one another is going to get more complicated. And I have two different things happening inside of me. One, I really want partnership, and I want there to be mutuality and equality and collaboration. And this is part of me that really understands, doing things in an equal way with money is in alignment with the part of me that wants partnership. And then there's a part of me that also wants romance, and that wants to be wooed, and that wants to feel special, and that wants to be treated. And this part of me really enjoys being taken out for dinner, being looked after in a very particular way. And I feel some sadness and grief around needing to give that up in order to have partnership. And I don't know how to hold these two things in our relationship. How does that land on you? Is it something like that, Diana, or what would you tweak about that? Because I want to highlight a couple things I'm hearing. One piece is that it's landing on you like a demand, like your own, how it lands on you is not even being taken into consideration. And there's a red flag coming up in you around that. There's a little bit of a resistance in the way that the conversation is happening, that something is getting imposed on you without your consent or agreement in how this works. Like there's something missing there. Is that true or no?
Yes.
So that's, that's something that I might talk about. Because as a relationship develops, one of the things that you're figuring out is, does this other person have the ability to engage with me in the kind of conversations that I want to engage in? And are they considering of and including the impact things are having on me in the decisions we are making as a couple? Or are they coming in with an agenda of, this is how it is, and these are the ways it's going to go, and here are my expectations, and I'm letting you know so you can comply. And if you don't comply, I'm not paying for you, which feels a little, I'm wondering if some of the needs that are getting tweaked have to do with a desire to be nurtured and supported, and for there to be mutual nurturing and support as the ground out of which we do partnership. And this way that this piece of the conversation is coming in feels a little bit like a consciousness of, I'll look after me and you look after you, and we're not going to help each other with that. And I wonder if you're picking up on some of that flavor, and that's the thing that you're wanting to talk about with this person. Is that possible or not?
Yes.
When there is a preference that emerges for me, and I find out that what I'm longing for in a partnership is a way in which we care for and nurture one another. And one of the ways that I sort of look after you and hold you in me is I do blah, 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 blah. Let's go into just traditional gender roles for a moment, even though not everybody is buying into this or doing this anymore. And it just takes a new form. But traditionally, I will do the laundry and I'll cook and I'll run the schedule. And these are the ways that I look after you. And the ways, the culturally symbolic ways that we've agreed is you pay for my meals and I get the experience of being nurtured and supported and looked after by you taking me out. And if the strategies we're using maybe are traditionally gender oriented, but the structure of the relationship is one of partnership and mutuality, and we're both getting our needs met and we enjoy this, these two people are enjoying it, then it's working. And so, fine. It only becomes a problem when it becomes oppressive, when nobody has choice about whether or not they want to do that, when you don't, that doesn't fit you, and there's no way that somebody's going to work with you because you're just supposed to fall into these like preset roles. Like, this is all very problematic. But when you are going into a relationship, whether it's romantic or otherwise, you get to know what your preferences are and what things mean to you. And you get to share that with this other person. Listen, I feel incredibly special and nurtured and supported and loved up when you take me out for dinner. Do you enjoy doing that or not? Or does that bring up other stuff for you? Because it sounds to me like when you're wanting us to pay equally, that there's some stuff for you around maybe not wanting to be used, not wanting to be exploited, not wanting to just be a paycheck, not wanting to be reduced to the person who has to pay for everything. Like, tell me more about what's coming up for you around this, and I'll tell you what's coming up for me around this. And let's find something that works for both of us. I want you to feel as nurtured and supported by me as I do by you. And we may have different strategies for how and where that plays out. And let's talk about how that can work for us. Your subjectivity is legitimate and valid, and you're allowed to make meaning, and you're allowed to reveal to people what things mean to you. And you get to decide which things you want to update or not in any given relationship. Who has had that experience sometimes where we doubt the legitimacy of what we want? Okay. Very, very common. Very common. We go into shame, we self-doubt. Now, healthy positioning. I want to know and accept who I am and what I want, while at the same time being willing to be flexible and examine and update things that are not working for me in the relationships that I'm in. But I don't want to do the ditch on both sides of this road. Is I either go, well, this is just who I am and this is what I believe and you're wrong. And either you meet me in my world or, I'm sorry, I can't be, like, in a very rigid and defensive way, like too much of self and not enough of other. Or the other ditch is too much of other and not enough of self. Oh, you need this, you want this. Oh, I guess maybe my beliefs are wrong and my meaning making is wrong and my preferences are wrong. And I need to make myself different in order to adapt to you. That's too much self-negation. So if we want real trust and intimacy with other people, partnership or otherwise, you need two sovereign, healed, like not totally healed because none of us ever are, but like you've got to have enough of yourself and enough self-love and enough self-advocacy with enough willingness to be flexible without feeling like that's a submission in order to have those conversations. But if it's going to be a relationship that has long-term viability, these are exactly the conversations we want to be able to have. And so, we may want to bring it up like, listen, I want to bring up something that I feel tentative and hesitant about. And I don't really have a lot of clarity, and I'm not, I don't know where it's going to go, but I feel like it's important to bring you into it. There's this part of me that is like, what do you mean you want me to pay for dinner? And then I have this self-doubt about this part of me. And I think, well, should I feel ashamed of feeling like entitled in a way? I wonder if I'm entitled to having someone else pay for me. And there's another part of me that's like, no, I love that experience of being supported and nurtured and cared for. It's one of the ways that I receive care. But then I take your point of view and I think, well, maybe you're just wanting partnership and you're wanting some trust that we are each responsible for ourselves. And a part of me really likes that. But another part of me is like, yeah, but in an intimate relationship, aren't we more interdependent than that? Like, I don't want this to be a business transaction. And I don't just want this to be like transactional. That's not really what I'm looking for in an intimate relationship. And I don't really know where I'm landing, but I feel like I need to just like put this in the space between us and find out, where are you at hearing all of that? And then find out how this person reacts. That their reaction will tell you a lot about whether you can work through stuff like this together or not. You don't even have to have a conclusion or an agenda. You just need to open up a process and find out whether you can relate within the process. That insecurity is where people connect with each other. That insecurity, that vulnerability, that I'm in process is one of the big open gateways of like, I'm available for connection. Domination systems say you've got to have it figured out, manicured, sanitized. You've got to have the right words. You've got to practice it. You've got to come in and you've got to perform well, and then it's going to go well. No. That's not how human relationships work. We connect with one another in our messiness. That's where we get the experience of loving and being loved.